It started on a night no one imagined would spark one of the biggest scandals in the Harris family's history. King Harris, son of rapper T.I. and Tiny Harris, had grown up surrounded by lights, cameras, and privilege. From the day he was born, his life was broadcast to the world. Everyone knew the Harris name. Mansions, luxury cars, designer clothes on the surface. It looked like a fairy tale childhood, but here's the twist: what looked like a dream slowly turned into a nightmare the moment King decided he no longer wanted to live in his parents' shadow. He didn't want to just be T.I.'s son. He wanted his own identity, his own reputation. And that drive to break free pushed him down a dangerous path. King's story wasn't just another case of a rich kid making reckless mistakes. His entire demeanor shifted in front of the public eye. Fans remembered the little boy from reality TV shows like T.I. and Tiny, the family hustle funny, confident, and bold. But as the years went by, that boldness hardened into arrogance, and the charm gave way to anger. By his teens, King was making headlines not for music, but for his temper. Viral clips showed him fighting strangers, clashing with fans on Instagram Live, and desperately trying to prove he feared no one. Instead of looking like a rising star, he was becoming a ticking time bomb. Behind the scenes, T.I. and Tiny weren't blind to it. Sources close to the family revealed they were constantly trying to steer King back on track. T.I., who knew the dangers of street life and prison firsthand, tried to warn him. Tiny, the softer parent, wanted to nurture and guide him. But no matter what they did, King pushed back. He wanted to live loud, act tough, and reject the polished image his family built, and that's where things turned serious, because this wasn't just teenage rebellion. It was shaping into a lifestyle, one with real consequences. Fans online even saw it coming. People commented, "King's headed straight for trouble," or "T.I.'s son is acting like he wants to end up locked up." And while his parents defended him, the signs were impossible to ignore. Every rant, every fight, every headline was another piece of a puzzle pointing toward disaster. Some believed it was just a phase, but King was different. He wasn't satisfied being just another celebrity kid. He wanted to prove he could survive the streets, even though he was born into luxury. That desire eventually clashed with reality, and from that point forward, the Harris family's perfect image began to crack. Fans who once admired T.I. for his discipline and transformation now questioned how his son was slipping into the very cycle T.I. himself had fought to escape. Whispers spread that King's story wasn't just about rebellion, it was about history repeating itself. And for T.I., that was the most painful part. He knew better than anyone where that road led. Yet now, he was forced to watch his son take the same dangerous steps he had once warned him about. It was only a matter of time before King's reckless lifestyle clashed with reality, and that night proved to be the breaking point. What began as a regular hangout with friends quickly turned into something unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. At first, it was just laughs, music, and drinks. But witnesses say things shifted when an argument sparked out of nowhere. No one can say for sure what started it, but what stood out was how quickly it escalated. Tempers flared, voices grew louder, and suddenly this wasn't just a minor disagreement. King, already infamous for his short fuse, refused to back down. The more people urged him to calm down, the more he pushed back, raising his voice and letting his anger take over. Then came the twist: someone at the scene called the police. The moment those flashing lights pulled up, the energy shifted completely. Most people would have stepped back the second law enforcement arrived. But not King. Instead, he stood his ground, acting like the rules didn't apply to him. Eyewitnesses later described him mouthing off to the officers, doubling down with the same arrogance fans had seen on his Instagram lives. But the law doesn't bend for celebrity kids. His attitude only made things worse, and within minutes, King went from flexing in the streets to being shoved into the back of a police car. This time, the cameras weren't capturing fame, they were capturing evidence. For someone raised on money, fame, and privilege, the cold reality of a jail cell hit hard. Gone were the flashy cars and mansions. Instead, King found himself behind steel bars, under harsh lights, and surrounded by silence. Sources claim the shock was written all over his face as he realized This wasn't just another viral moment, it was real. Meanwhile, the story spread like wildfire. Within hours, news outlets were reporting it, and social media was exploding with memes, jokes, and debates. But the most heartbreaking scene came when T.I. himself rushed to the jail. Fans knew him as the King of the South, a man who had survived prison, fame, and scandals. But when he arrived and saw his son locked up, all that strength faded. Witnesses described him as devastated. Some even said they saw tears in his eyes as he pleaded for his son's release. That moment shook everyone. T.I., the man who had always been in control, looked powerless for the first time. Fame couldn't erase the situation. Influence couldn't rewrite the story. King was behind bars, and there was nothing he could do. But here's the twist. This arrest wasn't the end of the story. If anything, it was just the beginning. Because as King sat in that cell, rumors started to spread. Whispers about what he was saying behind those cold walls began circulating, and they were more explosive than anyone could have imagined, according to insiders. King wasn't quiet once he was inside. Instead, he reportedly let his words fly, statements that didn't just rattle the police station, but also shook the Harris family's reputation to its core. Some claimed he boasted, saying things along the lines of, "I won't be here long. My pops runs this city." Whether those were his exact words or not didn't matter. The rumor alone spread like wildfire, painting him as entitled, arrogant, and untouchable in the eyes of the public. But here's where it gets deeper. Other whispers suggested something far more emotional, that King wasn't just bragging, he was venting. Allegedly, he confessed that growing up in the shadow of his parents' fame had left him feeling weak, like he constantly had to prove himself to the world. And destiny took a sharp turn when people realized this wasn't only about a young man acting out, it was about someone caring. Resentment toward the very family that had given him everything. If those words were true, then King wasn't simply fighting strangers, he was pushing back against his own bloodline. Social media wasted no time amplifying these claims. Some fans pointed to arrogance, saying King believed his father's name was a free pass. Others argued it sounded like a cry for help, proof of a kid trapped under the crushing weight of being T.I.'s son. And here's the twist, both sides were right in their own way. King came across as spoiled yet struggling, loud yet insecure. Suddenly, every alleged statement from that jail cell was being dissected by millions online. The fallout quickly spread beyond King himself. Old clips resurfaced, videos of him arguing with his parents, boldly declaring he wasn't like the rest of the Harris family. Fans began piecing it all together, claiming the warning signs had been there all along. The Harris dynasty, once seen as hip-hop royalty, was now being torn apart in front of the world. People questioned how two seasoned parents could still lose control of their child. Was this the curse of fame? Or simply years of rebellion boiling over? And then came the most heartbreaking layer, T.I.'s reaction. Insiders revealed he was crushed, torn between fury and sorrow. On one hand, he couldn't believe his son would try to wield his name as a shield. On the other, hearing that King might secretly resent his upbringing was like a dagger to the heart. The same man who fought to rebuild his own life was now being accused, directly or indirectly, of creating the environment that fueled his son's rebellion. But this time, it wasn't just about saving King from legal trouble. It was about salvaging the family's legacy before it collapsed completely. And the internet wasn't making it any easier. Within hours, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter lit up with hashtags, memes, and debates. Some defended King as just another teenager making mistakes under a magnifying glass. But critics were merciless, calling him spoiled, entitled, and reckless, claiming this downfall was inevitable. Memes mocked him as a tough guy online but scared behind bars. Others clowned T.I., saying even the self-proclaimed King of the South couldn't save his real king, his son. What made it worse was the way people laughed, forgetting there was real pain behind the headlines. And that's when it hit. The Harris family wasn't just dealing with a scandal. They were living through a tragedy that the whole world was turning into entertainment. Behind the jokes was a family quietly unraveling in ways no camera could ever capture. What made it even more intense was how the past came back to haunt them. Old clips resurfaced of T.I. talking about discipline, responsibility, and raising grounded kids now replayed alongside King's mugshot and jail rumors. The irony was too much for people to ignore. Tiny also got pulled into the storm. Some critics blamed her for being too soft, while others defended her, insisting no amount of love can control a child determined to rebel, and that's where the story shifted. This wasn't just about one mistake, it came a spotlight on something bigger. The privilege that comes with fame, the struggles of parenting under pressure, and the heavy burden placed on kids born into celebrity households. Bloggers, podcasts, and YouTube channels picked apart every angle. Some argued this could be King's turning point, a moment that finally humbled him. Others predicted it was only the beginning of a darker downfall, warning that even jail might not change him. Meanwhile, T.I. found himself caught in the crossfire. He was trying to protect his son, but at the same time facing criticism from the public who questioned his role as a father. The Harris family had built an empire on unity, strength, and success, but that image now seemed fragile, cracked by King's defiance and the world's judgment. And here's the harsh truth. The focus wasn't just on King anymore. It was on the entire Harris legacy. Would T.I.'s influence help redeem his son, or only intensify the backlash? Would King learn from this wake-up call, or was it the beginning of something even more destructive? One thing is certain, this controversy has shaken the Harris family to its core, and the world will be watching to see how their story unfolds.